Matt Rhule is our headline number one. He was on the public stage, stole the show at the Broyles High School Award event in Arkansas, where he did the keynote address at the banquet, taking the place of Iowa's Phil Parker, who was not able to make it down there. So Rhule gave the address. And
this was Friday.
Was it Friday or Saturday?
I think it was Friday. I saw it on our board. One of the posters said it was Friday. They posted it.
Saturday.
It was posted on social media on Saturday.
But Matt Rhule was the keynote at the event. And, this is, one of the areas where Matt Rhule really shines. And, to the point where you're like, man, like he could make a lot of money giving talks. If he wasn't a football coach,
he might have made a lot of money giving this talk. But I don't even know what to say about him. You kind of got to watch it to understand, although we've seen him speak now publicly. Like, for instance, remember the first summer he was here, he blew us away when he spoke at the Embassy Suites. Remember that?
Yeah, at the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce event.
Blew us away, right? I haven't seen a head coach speak like that in my lifetime.
I'll never forget when he got done, he sends me a text. He goes, "Am I talking to you guys now next?" And I'm like, "Sure."
Like, work out.
He's got a command of all that stuff. And
he's really got a command it on a podium. You can tell he's very mindful of it. You can tell he doesn't get up there and try to wing it. He has a very defined message or messages, and he brings the fire. What I liked about what he said it was at Hot Springs, Arkansas. By the way, he went to Oaklawn Racetrack. I saw clips of him at Oaklawn Racetrack, the horse racetrack. It's pretty cool. What I like is he's you know what he does, Sean? And this is really admirable. We should all do it. He says he has to bring the fire every day. He's the leader of a major program, and he feels like he owes it to everybody involved, players, assistant coaches, support staff, etc., to bring fire every day. Sean, you know that's easier said than done. He seems to do it, right? That's a lot. That's a big responsibility.
And sometimes when you do that, you're not always popular.
Right. You're a boss. You're the boss. You have to say no. You have to make rough decisions. You're not going to please everybody. You think, how many people you think Rhule pisses off on a weekly basis? Probably a few, right? But if he's coming from the right place and he's honest, which he seems to be to me, right? He seems like that guy. I don't work with him directly, so I don't know, but he seems to be. Then it works. But his messages, Sean, in that speech were excellent. What struck you? Struck you?
Just the relationship importance with the players, and
that was a big part of it. That was a big part of it.
How important it is at all levels. And he talked about a coach that didn't even probably know when he was an 11th grader, and he was speaking to high school coaches. But I agree 100% with this, because some of the more influential people in my life were coaches.
Yeah.
And some at that time you may not have liked, but as you become a man, like, you realize why they were the way they were, and how it helped you develop and grow, where when you're in real life, it's easier because of what those guys got you through at that age. And that's his job. And just those relationships really are important. I think he wanted to send that home. And he talked about a world where let's give our players 5-minute breaks to get on their phones. And he's like, why are we putting our kids in situations to make life easier? Are we really preparing them for life?
He said, like, are we preparing them to dominate in this world if we keep lowering the standard? How do you do that? How do you prepare them to go out? And I think he said something like along those lines, dominate. How do you prepare them to go be their very best if you continually are lowering the standard for them? It's a great message. The other message that would resonate with you, I think, is we've talked about this, me and you. He discussed the challenges that assistant coaches face, particularly in aligning with the head coach's messages and decisions. He says it's hard. And you see it at Nebraska. You see at Nebraska. Okay, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you'd agree with me. I've never seen the assistants more aligned with the head coach than I have during the Rhule tenure. And he said that's not easy because sometimes assistant coaches, the decisions that the head coach makes aren't necessarily what the assistant coaches would decide, but they have to be aligned. So they have to inherit that message. You've seen that, right?
Yeah, I would say in years past at Nebraska, you would have some assistant coaches that would make rogue recruiting moves without informing their colleagues, like taking a commit at a position that they don't even coach.
That's that.
I know it happened. And
yeah, that's not conjecture.
And there was a guy, like, I'll give you an example. I mean, there was a recruit named, I believe, Ashley Williams, and he was in Louisiana guy or Southern guy, and Mickey Joseph took his commit as a defensive end. Well, Mike Dawson already had Cam Lenhart lined up in that spot, silently committed. And so it caused some rift, and they had to get it figured out. They had to drop this kid, and then they got it all worked out to get Cam Lenhart here. But, as a head, that doesn't happen under Rhule. Like, you're not seeing,
no,
you're not seeing like those types of things where a coach goes out and operates above the organization.
Right. And you also notice just at the podiums that when the head coach takes the podium, then the assistant coaches take the podium on a subsequent day. The messages are pretty simple.
They have talking points.
But it's not so overt. It's not so overt that it's sort of
obvious,
mechanical and obvious. But but I think the biggest message was what you said, the importance of understanding your influence on these student athletes. And he kind of hopes they remember that, like he hopes they remember the kids down the line, remember his name, remember their assistant coach's name. He gave an example of a kid who couldn't remember his coach's name. And that was a
turnoff,
kind of disappointing, So yeah. Bottom line is he spoke at the Broyles Award. Was it just the high school Broyles Award?
So the high school Broyles Award, where the state winners were honored. Like a coach from Norfolk Catholic won one for Nebraska, and so that's the high school event. And I believe the college winner is generally invited to be the keynote.
Rhule, if you're a Nebraska fan, find it on social media. I would. I mean, you don't have to.
It's like 13 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not directing people to.
It's worth watching.
It's worth it. I think you'd feel, if you're a Nebraska fan, I think you'd feel proud that's your head coach.
Glenn. It got my attention immediately when I saw Glenn Snodgrass, the retired now York head coach. His son Garrett played for Rhule, and he goes, "My son only got to play for Coach Rhule for 1 year, but feel honored that he got to just watch this speech." And Glenn's not a sugarcoater. Like
no, I know he's not.
And he was just, for a guy like that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and watch this.
Oh, it's worth it.
And I had to go coach a second grade basketball game a couple hours later. I was pretty fired up. It was a moving talk.
Yeah. Now, yeah. I mean, it's there was a lot of talking points that are good. Like if you listen to it as a coach, it's really good. If you just listen to it as a human being, it's good. I mean, you don't have to be a coach to get value out of that. I'm not a coach. I got value out of it.
All right.
You know what though, Sean? I probably should be a coach, right? What'd you say?
Should
probably
boxing.
Sean, I was thinking football.
I've learned, especially with young.
I'm kidding, by the way.
Yeah, coaching is way harder,
right,
than you'd ever imagine.
Oh, no, I can imagine actually. I can imagine losing my patience a lot. Is what I can imagine.
My friend Mitch gave me a good line this weekend. He's like, "Kids have bad days, just like adults do, and when you coach kids, you got to understand that kid might be having a bad day." And as a coach, you have to like figure out, how to navigate through the emotions.
Oh, it's a lot
because everyone's different. It's like running an organization. I mean, I deal with it doing this job here that I'm in.
Yeah. Fortunately, you have people like me that are always even
straight and arrowed.
Yes.